Things in Lockwood are hot. It's going to be like about 100.
Check one. Mic check.
Where'd I get all the way?
Okay, we're going to start in about 40 seconds if we are ready. No.
But we're just going to call her absent, and when she arrives, can you just point out that she arrived?
Okay, thank you. Okay, in about 15 seconds. Thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and begin the County of Monterey Planning Commission meeting of July 9, 2025. And with that, we're starting the meeting. And can Mr. Getzelman, Commissioner Getzelman, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, can we have a roll call? Excuse me.
Commissioner Getzelman?
Here.
Commissioner Mendoza?
Here.
Commissioner Gomez? Here. Commissioner Hartzell? Here. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Work?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts? Commissioner Monsalve? Commissioner Shaw? Commissioner Deal?
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, this is the time when we will get information in terms of the public out there as if they wanted to participate in this commission meeting in terms of giving their input through Zoom or through emails. This would be the time that you would be informing how to communicate with the commission.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Chair. If you are joining us remotely via phone or via the Zoom platform on your computer, we welcome and invite you to participate in public comment during the period of time that public comment is available. And if we could share the slide for individuals as well, that would be great. So on your Zoom platform, on today's agenda is the link and the pathway you can join by Zoom. If you, during public comment, would like to provide public comment, you can raise your hand by opening the reactions button on the bottom of your computer screen and clicking the raise hand icon, and you can lower it the same way. Via phone, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9. We also accept email comments during the hearing, and you can send those emails to pchearingcomments@countyofmonterey.gov. This email address is also on the agenda. We do monitor that email address in real time, but now that the meeting has started, there is the possibility that we can't guarantee that we capture everything that comes in via email, but we do our best. Also, during public comment, if you wish to speak, you will be granted permission by the meeting clerk to unmute yourself. To do so via the Zoom platform at the bottom of your screen, click the microphone icon to mute and unmute. Via phone, you can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. Thank you. We are also happy to continue our pilot program for utilizing Wordly. If we can show the Spanish language version, thank you very much. So if you are joining us today and require translation, you can either scan the QR code that's on the screen, or you can go to the web page at the bottom left of your screen. And when you go there to the Wordly, you can enter in what language you would like translation for, and then enter the information for this meeting. Also, if you're here in chambers, I don't see anyone, but we do have headsets here in chambers should anyone need translation services. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so with that, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. And this is a time set aside for the public to comment on a matter that is not on the agenda. And you may state your name for the record, but not necessary. And you have about approximately 3 minutes. So is there anybody here in the chambers that would like to address the commissioners or commission? Seeing none, is there anybody through Zoom or any emails?
There are no additional hands up on Zoom or additional emails.
Thank you. With that, let's see, we move on to agenda additions, deletions, and corrections.
For the record, Commissioner Roberts has joined the meeting. I wanted to also state that Commissioner Shaw and Monsalve are absent. And we have also received and distributed additional correspondence for agenda item number 2, PLN 220169, Karma Valley Ranch, HSGE LLC, and agenda item number 3, GPZ 09005, Moss Landing Community Plan Update.
Thank you. With that, we move on to commissioner comments, requests, and referrals. And this is a time set aside for the commissioners to comment, request, or refer a matter that is on or not on the agenda. Commissioners. Seeing none, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of the consent calendar. Does anybody want to pull this item for discussion? Seeing no one, then we would need to have a motion and a second to approve for approval of consent calendar.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gomez and.
Question to public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for, as far as, is there anybody here in the chambers that would like to address the commission on this particular item? Anybody on Zoom or any emails?
There are no additional emails and no hands up on Zoom.
And so we have a motion by Commissioner Gomez, seconded by Commissioner Mendoza. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We move to the scheduled matters, which is PLN 240285, Perkins Robert T. and Mara B. TRS.
Good morning, Chair Gonzalez and Commissioners. My name is Haya Honorado, and I will be presenting staff's report on PLN 240285 for Perkins. At this time, staff is requesting a continuance to August 13th on behalf of the applicant due to a scheduling conflict as they are unable to attend today's Planning Commission hearing. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, Ms. Honorado, is this the first request by the applicant for continuance?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, with that, we're going to see if there's anybody in the here in the chambers that would like to address this particular item during the public hearing. I'm sorry? Oh, for the continuance. Anybody in Zoom or any emails that would like to address this particular item regarding the continuance of this particular item?
There are no additional emails and no hands up on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. And with that, all those in, wait, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Do we have, bring it back to the commission for any other comments, questions? If not, we need a motion and a second for the continuance.
I move to approve the continuance.
Okay, Commissioner Hartzell has made the motion. Commissioner Deal made the second. Any other comments, concerns, questions? All those in favor of the motion so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
With that, we move on to the item number 2, which is PLN 220169, Carmel Valley Ranch HSGE LLC. And with that, staff can go ahead and make the presentation.
Melissa, can you go screen right? Am I on? Thank you, Commissioners and Chair Gonzalez, and good morning. Steve Mason presenting PLN 220169 Carmel Valley Ranch. The project parcel is 30 acres within a larger facility. It is located in the Carmel Valley Master Plan area, approximately 6 miles inland from Highway 1 and Carmel Valley Road intersection. Primary zoning is visitor serving professional office with design control, site plan review, and resource allocation zoning district overlays. The permit for your consideration today is a combined development permit to include an administrative permit and design approval for construction of a 1-story parking structure with 34 parking spaces, demolition of 7 lodge buildings with 29 units, and construction of 7 replacement buildings with 56 units. This would result in a net gain of 27 units total, bringing the visitor serving units to 208 at the ranch. This is the maximum allowed. There's also a use permit for development on slopes in excess of 25% and a use permit for removal of 7 oak trees. The project site is the yellow circle here. You can see it's about a half a mile from the closest point at Carmel Valley Road. This closer photo, the 7 highlighted buildings are the ones to be demolished and reconstructed. You can see there's a heavy oak tree cover, and this combined with the elevation provides fairly adequate screening from most public viewing areas. Brief history of the permitted development at the ranch. In 1966, a general plan for the Carmel Valley Ranch was adopted by the board, outlining proposed uses. 1975, the specific plan was adopted. 1977, construction began. 1995, the specific plan was amended to allow 375 residential units and 144 lodge units. In 1996, the 64 units were transferred from residential cap towards the resort cap, allowing 208 visitor-serving units and reducing the residential cap to 311. And while we're on this subject of the specific plan, I should address one public comment that came in regarding the attachment to the staff report. That's Exhibit F. You can see it has a received stamp and a blank resolution number on the bottom. This is the same version that was used in 2014, the last time the ranch expanded. Project PLN 140130 for 37 additional units. It's on this webpage, the county webpage, and the resolution that approved this is attached as Exhibit H. Now, staff did find a hard copy in the county files in the planning department. It's a subset of this document I'm holding called the Carmel Valley Master Plan Amendments. And it is the same document minus the received stamp, and it is word for word identical. Partial history of the CEQA review. 1975, an EIR was prepared and adopted for the specific plan. In 1996, there was a negative declaration for the increase in visitor serving units to 208. That's also included, I believe, as attachment H. the second part of attachment H. And finally, an EIR was prepared and adopted for the 2010 general plan, which analyzed the Carmel Valley Ranch specific plan as existing development, including the 208 visitor serving units. Seek was section 15183, projects consistent with the community plan, general plan, or zoning, states in part, in approving a project, a public agency shall limit its examination of environmental effects to those which the agency determines were not analyzed as significant effects in a prior EIR on the general plan or community plan with which the project is consistent. In summary, there have been a number of, well, 2 EIRs and 1 negative declaration. Traffic impacts have been evaluated in all of these documents. One of the conditions of the 1996 amendment to the specific plan had the ranch paying for the Robinson Canyon Underpass interchange to facilitate left turns onto Carmel Valley Road. This is the ranch's primary point of access. For this project, the ranch would be paying a regional development traffic impact fee to TAMC. A few takeaways from the traffic study. One is that the facility is all-inclusive with a lot of on-site amenities. This generally generates fewer off-site trips than a typical hotel or motel. Project would generate 255 gross trips per day, with 45 of these being off-site. Due to typical check-in and check-out times, external trips during peak commute hours should be minimal. Concluding note of the traffic study is that the proposed additional 27 guest units are consistent with the 208 guest units allowed by the specific plan that has already been subject to environmental review and full mitigation. No further traffic analysis is required. The units will utilize what is currently unconditioned floor space. One of the first questions I had is how they're going to get 2-story buildings into 1-story buildings, and you can see from this photo there is an abundance of unconditioned floor space between all of these buildings. One of the elevations. Development on slopes in excess of 25%. It's highlighted in blue on this figure, about 7,600 square feet. And this is, you can see, is almost entirely within or around the footprint of existing structures. There's no feasible alternative. Spreading out the development for the same number of units would mean significantly more trees being removed. 7 oak trees will be removed for the project, including 3 landmark oaks. This is the minimum required, and there will be replacement at 1-to-1 ratio. The biological assessment for the project notes the potential biological impacts will be substantially less than if the new rooms were to be built in a previously undeveloped portion of the ranch. There's a 4-tier parking lot, slopes downhill from east to west. The entry ramp to the upper deck will be just left of this large oak tree in this photo. This tree will be retained. The cursor shows where the lower ramp is, rather the upper ramp and the lower ramp where the cursor is, and this makes more sense if I show the elevation and side profile view. 34 additional parking spaces. A few additional notes: the water credits are currently held by the ranch, and no new water meters are required. And NPWMD does not consider the project as intensification of use, as existing credits would be utilized. The project is very consistent with the master plan policy CV 1.15A, recommending that expansion of existing hotels, motels, and lodges should be favored over the development of new projects. These will be all 1-bedroom suites. The Carmel Valley LUAC made a site visit on May 5th and then recommended approval of the project at their meeting by a 5-0 vote with 2 members absent. A few additional items to clean up. Finding 2, consistency evidence M currently reads, conditions of approval are included to protect potential impacts to birds and bats during their nesting season. This should be amended to read, conditions of approval are included to protect against potential impacts. Sheet A10 of the plan set indicates 9 oak trees, and I think this figure might have turned up in at least one other place. This, unfortunately, is not correct. It's 7 oak trees. This is probably taken from the cover letter of the arborist report, which includes 9 trees overall, but includes 2 non-protected trees, a Japanese maple and a crabapple. The maximum structural height is 30 feet, according to the Carmel Valley Ranch specific plan. The staff report and resolution does cite 35-foot maximum height, in the staff report, and one of the two planned set elevation sheets, A3.2, has building 13 at 30 feet 6 inches above average natural grade. Now, the applicant has submitted a letter to the effect, from the architect rather, that all the structures will be below 30 feet, and to remove all doubt, staff would recommend adding condition number 17. PDSP, Special Condition 01, height verification, starting out that the structure shall not exceed 30 feet in height above average natural grade, and the remainder is the standard benchmark condition that you're probably familiar with to make sure that the height is maintained. In closing, staff would recommend, with the addition of condition number 17, that the Planning Commission find the project exempt per sequence section 15183B and approve the combined development permit consisting of an administrative permit and design approval for the parking structure, demolition of 7 buildings and construction of 7 replacement buildings for a net gain of 27 visitor serving units, use permit to allow development on slopes in excess of 25%, and a use permit for removal of 7 oak trees. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. With that, we bring it back to the commissioners. Questions, comments? Commissioner Hartzell? Excuse me.
There's a physical button.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I just want to clarify the visitor serving units count. Visitor serving units count. Could you just sort of run through why these visitor serving units don't count toward the what's captured in CV 115E? It's on page 7 of the discussion.
When the Carmel Valley Ranch specific plan was most recently amended in 1996, it increased the units to 208, as Mr. Mason has described. This number was factored into the 2010 general plan when it was adopted, and the restriction on additional units would be in excess of what had been previously approved or incorporated through reference. So for this project, because it doesn't exceed what the Carmel Valley Ranch specific plan allows, it does not require allocation of additional visitor serving units from that overall cap. If the project were to exceed 208, then it would be drawing down from the remaining allocation within Carmel Valley master plan area, as well as requiring an amendment to the specific plan.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, and I vaguely remember the timeshare discussion after 2010. Can you just run me through what the timeshare transfer thing was? My memory is faulty. And does that count as a visitor serving unit or not? I'm remembering it as after 2010. There was the applicant. I'm sure the applicant can refresh my memory, but I guess it comes back down to my own information. When we hear from the applicant what they recall from that, which is probably much more accurate. Do timeshares count as visitor serving units, or do they not?
Through the chair, I would believe so. You're not referring to the 2014 project where 37 units were added, are you?
It might be. It sounds right. It was about the, I don't know. Anyway, we'll
To
figure it out.
my knowledge, that's the most recent.
That's the problem with having memories that are non-specific, is I recall a long discussion about timeshares. That's about the extent of it.
And although I don't know if this applies to Carmel Valley, I know there's a policy in the Pebble, whether the Del Monte Forest General Plan, I believe, not allowing timeshares.
This is something that already happened, so it's more a question of what in fact did happen and whether it had any impact on visitor serving units whatsoever. So just checking.
Commissioner Gomez?
Mine relate to, and it was probably addressed right. So they're similar in nature, relates to the housing and the additional 27 units. And my question is, there is no need for them to pay housing in lieu fees for those additional units, or they already paid them?
Through the chair, that is correct. Those fees apply to residential, not non-residential or visitor serving. It's simply not a requirement of county code.
Thank you.
Any other Commissioner Roberts?
Two questions. One about the letter received, which I think you addressed, that I just want to verify that I understand. Staff has verified that any plan that we are working on was written by staff, and there's no question of where those documents came from.
Yes, the attachment to the staff report was a applicant provided copy, which is why it is stamped received. However, the contents of that version of the specific plan is the same as the Board of Supervisors adopted in October 1996.
Thank you. My second question is related to slopes. And in reading the findings and evidence regarding slopes, it's finding 7, evidence C. There's a great description about this very specific site, and what I think I understand about the development on slope is that there's one-story buildings but have large crawl spaces underneath, and so what is going to be replaced is a 2-story building, and primarily those crawl spaces are the 25% slope that is being developed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. That description in the finding is very effective and well-written. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Deal?
Just a real quick comment about the copy of the plan and the received stamp. I read a date stamp on there of 2006, so I don't think that the official being received by staff was for this application. It must have been for something previous.
Sorry. Seeing no other commissioners raising their hand, and I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And this would be the time for either the agent or the owner to come and make your presentation. Thank you.
Morning, Anthony Lombardo on behalf of Carmel Valley Ranch. I don't know what's going to happen, Martha, when we're gone, because no one will remember. But your memory is...
That could be a good thing.
Yeah, your memory is not perfect, but there was, prior to 2008, when Joie de Vivre bought this property from Blackstone, which is a real estate investment trust, Blackstone had proposed putting timeshares below the main lodge building on that hillside, which I think may have a vineyard on it now or something, landscaping. Anyway, that never went anywhere, and it died. We also obtained, what I did obtain approval for was to do a hotel condominium, which was to allow the individual hotel rooms to be sold like condominiums and then rented back through the hotel for the owners who bought the condominiumized hotel rooms. That was approved and probably mercifully died its own death. It never happened, and the entitlement has now long expired, probably a decade ago. So that's timeshares and hotel condominiums at Carmel Valley Ranch. I really don't have anything else to add. I have a PowerPoint, but I think the staff's PowerPoint was fine. As staff pointed out, we've actually done this and already adding additional rooms in the past. These rooms had large underfloor areas that are in some cases 12 or 15 feet tall, where the buildings were built out on stilts, as it was shown in the photograph. And so we're able to utilize that underfloor area to build rebuild the room so that there are 2 where there are currently just 1. So the conditions are fine. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but I Not much else to say. This would be the build out of the visitor serving allowed under the specific plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Lombardo. With that, we're going to continue. Is there anybody here in the chambers that would like to address the commission on this particular item? Seeing no one in the chambers coming forward, is there anybody in Zoom or any emails that would like to address this particular item?
There are no additional emails and no hands up on Zoom.
Thank you. With that, I don't think I need to bring it back to Mr. Lombardo or the staff for any clarification. So with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, questions, comments, concerns, motions? Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, I appreciate the reminder that my mind wasn't completely going from Mr. Lombardo, and I am happy to make a motion, once there's any questions that have been raised, to approve this item as recommended by staff and amended here in this hearing.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that? Commissioner Work makes the second. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and move to the next item on the agenda, and that is GPZ 090005, a Moss Landing Community Plan update. So staff, whenever you're ready.
Apologies, Commissioners. 1 second while we get ourselves oriented.
Good morning, Chair Gonzalez, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Sarah Weichel. I'm the principal planner with the Advanced Planning Team. Happy to be here this morning and give you a status update on the Moss Landing Community Plan. I'm joined here by Senior Planner Phil Angelo and Management Specialist Mike Novo, and they're going to be giving the presentation to you this morning. Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Could you share my screen? Not the Commissioners, but Secretary team. Thank you. So the action today is to receive a status report on the Moss Landing Community Plan. Many of you may be very familiar with this project, and for others it may be relatively new. Part of our goal today is to synthesize down some of that history well in advance of a draft plan coming to the Commission for review and a recommendation. So this presentation focuses on the background of the plan, key items we're still working on in the update process, providing an anticipated timeline for adoption, and describing some of the other related planning work happening in Moss Landing. We're not going to go into each plan section or the policies today. So this is the Moss Landing Community Plan area. It focuses on Moss Landing Harbor, which is on the mouth of Elkhorn Slough. To the south is the Heights neighborhood and Potrero Road. To the north is Moss Landing State Beach. And then along the east is Dolan Road and the industrial sites along it. The community has a very unique mix of land uses, natural resources, and cultural resources. This formed the impetus to create special land use policies for it, which take the form of the community plan. This community plan is Chapter 5 of the broader North County Land Use Plan that was originally adopted in 1982. Since then, significant changes have occurred in the community, including the expansion of marine research-related uses, particularly along the island to the west here, changes in power plant operations, and the closure of Kaiser Refractories in what is now the Moss Landing Business Park. The community plan contains the land use designations for the properties within it, as well as addressing specific policy areas relevant to the community. It isn't intended to be an all-encompassing plan, but to work within the broader North County Land Use Plan that it's a chapter of. Updating the community plan is a project that began in 2008. A community plan update committee was formed, which analyzed multiple different land use scenarios, including a limited growth scenario, an expanded growth scenario with additional commercial uses along Highway 1, and a moderate growth scenario. This moderate growth scenario retains the same general distribution of land uses as the existing community plan, and it was the one recommended by the committee. It remains central to the latest draft of the community plan. The staff report uses the analogy of building a house, so these 2009 committee recommendations are the foundation. Between 2009 and 2017, several different drafts and concepts were considered. Then between 2018 and 2020, a series of public meetings and planning commission workshops were conducted to refine the plan. At that time, the structure and the text of the plan was substantially changed. Continuing with the house analogy, this is like framing it up. We can kind of see where its form is. And the latest draft of the plan was released in December of 2024. The intent of the latest draft is to retain the vision from 2009 committee recommendations, minimize changes to the intent of what was developed in between 2018 and 2020, and kind of focus on structural and grammatical clarity within the plan. So this is kind of like the windows and the finishes and the paint, where it's all going to come together. We re-engaged the community on the plan update in November of 2020 with the release of an updated draft. Since then, we've released a revision of that draft in December of 2024, as well as a red line that compares the 2024 draft, which was previously considered by the Planning Commission in 2020. We also released a revised notice of preparation for an environmental impact report that's being prepared for the community plan update, and conducted a public scoping meeting. On the content of that environmental impact report, we released draft regulations on climate change that would be developed to implement the community plan policies, and conducted a public meeting on them. And we've released a set of draft regulations that would address topic areas addressed in the community plan other than climate change, kind of everything else. At each stage of the process, we've received comments which are included as Exhibit B to the staff report. When we go out and talk to the community about this community plan, there's a little bit of fatigue over how long this process has taken. We want to collectively acknowledge that this update has been a challenge. Taking multiple year gaps between planning efforts like this is not ideal. So we're attempting to thread the needle between not going backward and reopening all the work that's been done to get us to this point, while making sure that new input that we receive is meaningfully considered at each stage in the process. Our planned approach is to take all the comments we've received to date and consider changes to the plan that wouldn't kind of impact the overall vision, then release a revised draft prior to releasing the environmental impact report for the project. So when this returns to the Planning Commission, it will have changes to it. As previously mentioned, the county is preparing a draft environmental impact report, or EIR, for the project. As part of this analysis, the EIR will consider the anticipated build-out resulting from the adoption of the plan. That build-out analysis will be in comparison to existing conditions on the ground, rather than what would theoretically be allowed under the 1982 community plan. The EIR is also analyzing two specific development projects: the remaining development of the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute Marine Research Campus on the island, which at this point is a warehouse and a mooring dolphin, and a road improvement project along Moss Landing Road. This kind of program level and project level EIR is the result of the community plan update's unique history. This is a rough timeline for the community plan update. Items that may impact this timeline include policy work in the community plan related to battery energy storage facilities, as well as addressing any potential comments we receive on the EIR that may require additional environmental analysis. With that said, we're targeting release of a revised plan in fall of 2025, as well as release of the draft EIR. Then in winter of 2025 or the beginning of 2026, the plan would return to the Planning Commission for review and a recommendation, and then go to the Board of Supervisors in spring of 2026. And after that, it would need to be submitted to the California Coastal Commission for review and then returned to the Board of Supervisors for final adoption. These are some of the key policy areas that are still in development as the project moves forward. Some of these are tied to the adoption of the community plans, and others are being worked on concurrently or would need to be completed after community plan adoption in order to effectively implement the plan. I'm going to discuss them at a high level, and additional detail is included in Exhibit A of the staff report. The largest challenge that's recently come up is battery energy storage. Moss Landing has 2 large utility-scale battery energy storage system, or BESS facilities. And the recent January 2020 fire and subsequent flare-up at the Moss Landing power plant has brought fire hazard and environmental issues related to these facilities into sharp focus, both in Moss Landing and statewide. At this time, HCD staff plan to work with the Department of Emergency Management, Environmental Health Bureau, California Coastal Commission, North County Fire Protection District, and first responders on a policy or policies that can be added to the community plan that would require that best facilities utilize best available science, be required to comply with state and federal regulations pertaining to both fire prevention and emergency response, and that contains the standard minimum submittal requirements for any best permit application. Information on the ongoing recovery efforts at the Moss Landing Power Plant is being posted and updated regularly on the Department of Emergency Management website at readymontereycounty.org/recover. The community plan contains draft policies that addressed how climate change and sea level rise would be considered in the review of development applications. It also contains a policy that would require preparation of a shoreline and harbor adaptation plan after adoption of the community plan. This phased approach is intended to maintain momentum on the overall community plan effort while ensuring that this issue is appropriately addressed. The county also received a grant from the California Coastal Commission to assist in both phases of this work, the community plan and the follow-up shoreline and harbor adaptation plan. There are a number of regional transportation projects that are being planned in the community. In addition to the Moss Landing Road Improvement Project I mentioned, the Transportation Agency for Monterey County is conducting a Highway 1 Elkhorn Slough Resilience study. While this effort is independent of the community plan, staff are participating in Transportation Agency for Monterey County outreach and coordination, as the long-term Highway 1 adaptation options will have a large effect on the community. Also, the Moss Landing has a unique visual nautical character with antique shops, the harbor, and historic cannery buildings. The plan has a draft that calls for the preparation of design guidelines for the community, and we are working on those. They're a separate item from the community plan itself, but we are trying to prepare and bring them forward concurrently with the community plan adoption. This is a QR code for the website where both the latest draft of the community plan and the latest drafts of the implementing regulations can be found. We are in the process of updating this to consolidate the updated information in a more readily accessible place. We've also been informed that there are issues with the footer on some of the regulations regarding page numbers, and that they're a draft, and we'll be cleaning up and fixing those as well. We did receive one letter from the law offices of Molly Erickson representing friends, artists, and neighbors at Elkhorn Slough, which has been distributed to the Planning Commission for consideration. And that concludes our presentation. So we would recommend that the Planning Commission receive a status report on the Moss Landing Community Plan. And we are available for questions.
Thank you. Back to the commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments? Commissioner Roberts?
I have a question about one of the letters received from Coastal Commission staff about probably the latest draft. And I was surprised to read that they, I think, as far as I'm aware, for the first time are considering those heavy industrial sites as something other than heavy industrial. And I know that it is so far down the road of this planning process that I'm curious to understand how the county has considered that and if that has changed at all in the current plan documents.
We've had considered that, and given this, where we are in the community plan process, we plan to meet with Coastal Commission staff to discuss that. That is a comment that we're very concerned about. And at this time, we are not planning to radically change the land use options, but we would welcome conversations with them about the details of the policies.
And if I can add to that, do I need to press a button? Good morning, Mike Novo, also on the team working on the plan. We have had a preliminary conversation with the Coastal Commission staff in response to that letter as well, and told them that this is really continuing the vision from the 2008-2009 committee work, and also there's a lot of problems with conversion of industrial land to non-industrial uses, and we told them that we were not entertaining the fact that comment at this point. We thought that that would be too big a change in both direction of the policy and has a lot of practical limitations that we thought needed a lot of thought. And so we're not going there at this point.
Thank you. To follow up on that, I guess in my memory, the Moss Landing Business Park was being treated as a special use area, and then the northern part of Dolan Road was still remaining completely heavy industrial. Is that the way it remains?
Yes.
And then I guess the only thing is it's interesting to me, and it's unfortunate because I feel like that was a consideration for all of the community for a long time to maybe move away from heavy industrial, but the Coastal Commission, I felt like, seemed like that's what they wanted it to remain. So it's an interesting thing for the community to consider at this point, especially, but I also agree that this poor community has gone for so long without a plan, and they need to be able to move forward. So it's an interesting dilemma at this point.
Commissioner Gomez?
Put back the 4 items you highlighted. I think the 2 of them, there's kind of a contradiction. One was climate resiliency and the other is battery storage, and how they're both related, right? They're interrelated in terms of the role that battery storage plays in terms of climate, dealing with climate change, right? So I don't know if that's really part of your analysis at all. My follow-up question relates to how are you looking at state legislation, specifically legislation that John Laird has, and I think it's still moving forward, that relates to battery storage, and also the changes at the CPUC and the Energy Commission to develop a plan? And what model are you looking at in terms of developing this plan that relates to battery storage and making it safer?
I think I'll take the lead on that question, since I seem to be becoming the battery storage expert for the county, it seems like. So we're convening an internal staff team to work on developing a policy for the community plan, and really not just limited to the community plan, but really for the county itself. So we're looking at the bigger picture as well. We're waiting for some of the soil testing and air testing results to be synthesized and grouped into reports. So we hope we're getting closer to getting some good scientific information. There'll be a basis for whatever policies we do develop. I don't know that we're going to definitely have a policy, a broad policy in time for the Moss Landing Community Plan that's going to be very comprehensive, but I think we're going to have something just from meetings with the community that will be needed to be put into this plan to address it. So in addition to the legislation you talked about, there's also Assembly Member Addis's AB 303, which is working on placing some restrictions on the locations of where battery storage can be located, and we're not sure where that's going to end up. That has not been adopted yet or signed, so we're following that legislation. All that will be informing our committee's work on developing policies and potentially regulations. We'll also be going out to the community on whatever we do kind of draft as a draft policy and go talk to the community and some experts. As the letter that you got today talked about, you know, we have some experts at the marine research facilities in Moss Landing that we should be talking to, and we will certainly involve the community and those experts as we develop a policy.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't bring up AB 303 is that it wouldn't allow it. That would, I guess, policy wouldn't be relevant, I guess, if you have some law that doesn't allow it.
Yeah, well, that's why we're looking broader as well. We're looking countywide, not just at Moss Landing on this topic.
Thank you. Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. I appreciate this report. It is very clear. I do have some questions and comments. And first off, following up on both Commissioner Roberts and Commissioner Gomez's comments, as we go forward in trying to keep some sort of momentum with this plan, and we have large issues that still remain unaddressed and will remain unaddressed in the plan, just want to comment that it is important in the policy document to leave windows for choices so that we don't say something inadvertently that is a definitive statement where we're still considering something. So in the case of the Coastal Commission's suggestions about the reuse of industrial property for things like, you know, retreating a village that might be needing to get up out of the ocean, which is what people think about there, I'd appreciate going forward that we continue to leave language that allows further consideration rather than making statements that say we aren't going to do this in there, that say, yeah, this is still something we need to continue to talk about as things change. Same with the batteries. It's like we don't know what is going to eventually occur with the scientific analysis of the battery disaster. And when it does, we're going to be making some policy in response to that. So our community plan, I think, needs to consciously provide opportunities for flexibility on these larger issues rather than the general flexibility that we always say that, yeah, you can amend it if you need to. But I'd like to see it call out some of these big issues so that we aren't surprised by them. And then I want to go back to the process because I'm a little muddled about the process. First off, the North County Land Use Plan is a single land use plan with a coastal and a non-coastal part, or is it a coastal land use plan and an inland plan?
The North County Land Use Plan is a single land use plan. There is a separate North County area plan, which is part of the 2010 general plan, and they are two
Which part's
totally
certified?
separate. The North County Land Use Plan is the one that's in the coastal zone and is certified.
The North County Land Use Plan only contains coastal areas, is that correct?
Yes.
So it will all be referring back to the 1982 plan rather than the 2010 general plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so with that in mind, we know that there's some contemplated updates to the countywide general plan with relation to some items like, I think it's noise and there's climate change one and there's a equality and justice piece. So I forget what you call those. So there are parts that are going to have to go into the larger plan for larger areas. I just want to know how those work in to the existing plan you've got here, because 82 doesn't have some of these pieces that are now, environmental justice is one, but I know noise is also really important now. So how does that fit into your plan, your work plan? I mean, there's a lot of plans.
So if I may, through the chair. So on that, we currently, staff does not have a timeline for updating the North County Coastal Land Use Plan. Within Moss Landing, some of the elements, such as climate change, are going to be addressed in the Moss Landing updates specifically. Our intention for Moss Landing and for North County will be, so a couple of pieces. Again, we will have our countywide environmental justice element. And when we have that countywide element, we will do a consistency analysis with our land use plans and area plans to determine what or if amendments may be needed for consistency or to better refine and address in those specific plans if amendments are needed for the environmental justice. For some of the other elements, we are going to do, so we do have in our work program to do a general analysis of requisite general plan elements that are covered and or deficient between the 1982 general plan and each of our respective land use plans and or area plans, but we're talking coastal in this, to then develop kind of the proposal for how we will address those. So with Moss Landing, the approach that we've taken is, because it's been so long in the works, was not to try to integrate everything, because also those additional elements would be more broadly applicable to North County LUP. However, where there's opportunity to integrate Moss Landing specific elements of those requisite lacking general plan elements, we will fold those in.
And if I could follow up on that, thank you. That's
Before we do move on, just for the record, Commissioner Monsalve is now present and arrived about 8 minutes or so ago. Thank you. You may continue, Commissioner Dill. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to, back to my original comment about keeping the windows open for changes. Environmental justice and the battery storage issue may not be unrelated, for example. And as we saw, actually retreating from sea level rise might also not be unrelated to an environmental justice element. So keeping that, I guess, explicitly forward rather than leaving it for a future consideration that has to upend some other considerations might be probably something you're already doing, but something I want to call out here. And then I want to go back to just a really geeky question, which is the timing of the EIR related to the updated draft. What is the EIR on, and how does that relate to changes in the draft? Because if they're, anyway, I'm confused. I think there's this process slide that shows the EIR and the draft coming out at the same time, more or less.
Would you mind sharing my screen? So the updated draft would come out in advance of the environmental impact report to ensure that we have a stable project description for the environmental impact report.
So the EIR has not been scoped and is not currently in progress, and you're going to get it out in the 3 months of fall?
The environmental impact report has been scoped, and it is well in the process of being developed. And once we have an administrative draft, we'll need to do a thorough review to see if any of the changes that we make before release of a revised draft community plan would warrant changes to the administrative draft of the environmental impact report.
So the EIR is drafted in process. We're going to look at the new draft as soon as we get it, and the release of the EIR timing will be dependent on whether changes are justified or necessary?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, that was, it's just I couldn't see them coming out at the same time. That was...
And if I may, through the chair, just add a little, and it is a little bit going back to the question or concern expressed about making sure that we're explicitly incorporating flexibility in the plan. I think one thing that I just wanted to reiterate is, when we're speaking here, staff speaking from our current approach for staff recommendations in order to get a next iteration before the policymakers and the public, as well as to of the plan, as well as to move the environmental analysis forward. That being said, very clearly, the plan is not locked. There are a number of large policy issues that continue to be kind of open for discussion, and may also through the environmental analysis, we may also prompt additional plan amendments in order to address environmental considerations through the process. So I really wanted to reiterate that when staff's speaking here, we're speaking from just the context of where staff's at right now to move the process forward, and recognizing we are still in an iterative update process with the goal to keep moving forward while continuing to tackle some of these very large scale and very interrelated circumstances. And then also just wanting to reiterate that, from our perspective, we absolutely are looking simultaneously at, for example, the environmental justice element and environmental justice as it's relating to some of these policies. So I did want to make clear that while formally our process will be consistency, review, and analysis, staff is very active to ensure that those two separate efforts that are happening concurrently are informing each other in the process, and will be very explicitly addressed together because those are very important issues.
Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. That's an important thing to know, but it's not specifically what I was talking about. I'm assuming that there will not be final resolution of these global issues prior to the adoption of this community plan. So the actual document that we actually adopt is probably going to be in advance of figuring out what to do about climate change, just a guess, okay? So I'm talking about the importance of incorporating language that recognizes that there are changes potentially possible that could address the overall vision, and kind of leaving that window open with some framework around it so that we know what we're going to be accomplishing when we need to make those future accommodations to the actual plan that actually comes forward. That's so, yes, I completely think it's important for people to understand we're not looking at a finished document in any way, shape, or form yet. We're looking at the work that goes into making a good document. And I want that work to include this consideration for what happens after we make it.
Any other commissioners? Seeing none, is there anything else that the staff would like to add?
Have you opened up to public comment yet?
Not yet, but
Nothing else from staff, I think, at this point.
okay. With that, we're going to go ahead and go to public comments, and this would be the time for anybody, whether here in the chambers, would like to speak to this particular item. You would have about 3 minutes, and you may state your name for the record, but you don't have to. So seeing no one coming forward from the chambers, is there anybody in Zoom, or is there anybody through any emails that would like to address the commission on that?
There are no additional emails and no hands up on Zoom.
Thank you. And since this is an item that's, I guess it's a presentation, I don't think we have any action on it. And thank you very much. And with that, we're going to move on to referrals. And then this is, I guess, would be for any Planning Commission referrals, and I'm not sure if staff is going to make a little presentation.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to just acknowledge that we've attached an updated Planning Commission referral spreadsheet. Just a reiteration that staff is trying to return with an updated spreadsheet approximately monthly for the Planning Commission, and we are attempting to bold and kind of bold changes and updates that occur in that referral sheet for the Planning Commission. With that said, I did want to just note a couple of those updates since it last came forward. One for Planning Commission referral 22.5, which is referral item number 7 regarding the draft housing element. That draft housing element was resubmitted to the state on June 26th for State Housing Community Development's 60-day review. And those documents are available on the County Housing Community Development webpage under Ordinances and Plans under Development. I also wanted to flag for item number, referral number 22.7, item number 9 on here, the request for quarterly updates on the Pajaro River levee improvement and Pajaro community flood recovery efforts. This is something where Housing Community Development staff is not directly involved in those efforts, and so we've attempted to streamline how we get those updates and that information to the Planning Commission. And what we've updated this month was basically the updates that on a monthly basis for the Pajaro River levee improvements. Those are actually part of a recurring monthly Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency board update that is provided. And so those are regularly available via those meeting agendas and updates. So we've included the web link so the commission or public can always go in and see the most recent monthly update. And those are the most current. It also they include as a part of those updates the map of reaches, et cetera. So that's the very thorough location, and really what staff was bringing forward to the commission was just relaying those. So we thought we'd just put it more direct to go to that webpage and then have an avenue if there are questions that you'd like us to relay to that entity. Also, with regard to the Pajaro recovery efforts, at this juncture, the Department of Emergency Services have been and continue to lead those efforts and coordinate those efforts, and they have a very excellent webpage that is up that they maintain up to date to give current updates for the community and others regarding those recovery efforts and resources available. So again, at this juncture, staff's recommending that those updates are kept up to date on that readymontereycounty.org Pajaro recovery page, which is also here linked, and hoping that going forward, this can satisfy the commission's desire for updates. And of course, if you have specific issues, we could bring those back in a more targeted manner related to these updates. Also, I did want to bring an update that we received word from the California Coastal Commission regarding the county's coastal vacation rental ordinances. They were unable to make their July meeting, but are on track and attempting to agendize and get those items before the commission at their August 2025 meeting, which is going to be held in Southern California. That agenda is not out, but we've not heard otherwise, so we anticipate that Coastal Commission staff will be able to make that timeline. But of course, we'll let folks know when it's actually scheduled and agendized. The other update that I'd like to just flag was we had a fairly extensive discussion regarding unpermitted food vendors and the follow-up. So I did provide some updates. Verbally, I did want to let you all know, I did reach out and speak to Environmental Health Bureau. I spoke to the Chief of Environmental Health, and I flagged for them as well, emphasizing the importance for the commission on this matter to be scheduled before the board. So they'll be working with their staff to get that scheduled. Also, I did want to just give a brief update regarding the very specific location at Salinas Road. in Pajaro that concerns were raised specifically about. I did want to follow up and just let this commission know that there is a notice of violation. That particular site and location and a number of areas, and I understand that in fact it's much more complicated because it is linked to a much broader sort of statewide group that is actually going into jurisdictions across the state and sort of operating in more of a money-making realm. And so actually in that case, our district attorney has been engaged as well. So that particular location in that particular case is fairly complicated, but at various levels in the county, it is being addressed. But it has that higher level of complication. So I did just want to respond back very directly just for status on that particular location. And then just a reminder that the commission did also want to craft a letter that would come and return to the commission for approval and submittal forthcoming to the Board of Supervisors. So please just advise the clerk when that letter is available, and we'll put it on the very next Planning Commission agenda. So with that, happy to entertain any questions or comments, but just wanted to walk through some of those very specific updates and follow-ups.
Commissioner Deal?
Commissioner Gomez had something pressing.
Good, I'll wait.
Okay, my comment is this. The referral that I made a long time ago about fire rebuilding and the referral that I supported for the Pajaro recovery process, in my mind, we're the Planning Commission. So what I'm looking for is the feedback loop. In the process of recovery from natural disasters, what barriers come forward that need to be addressed in the world of planning? And so I'm really concerned that we close that loop and we say somebody comes forward and they need to do something in the realm of recovery that incorporates both getting them back on their feet and making provisions for potential future repeats of these disasters. How does that address what's required of them in the planning process? And are we, in fact, working together, or are we working at cross purposes? So from my point of view, I'm not as interested in the status of the actual occurrence, which many other more relevant groups, agencies, and public forums are engaged in. I'm looking at bringing the lessons learned back to us for all of our potential updates to our planning process to better serve in these, unfortunately, increasingly common happenings. So I guess maybe I didn't frame some of those referrals in that manner, but that's what I'm trying to hone in on, is the part that's really our business. So what are we finding that you can't rebuild in this area because of some rule that is in the way? Is that causing things to slow down, or is not being able to do something you need to do because you need to take better precautions for future? I mean, what's going on, and how can we better support these efforts? Because I keep hearing planning is the barrier, and I don't want it to be like that. I don't think we intend that. We're trying to help. I mean, sometimes it's a barrier because people want to do things that are not wise. I understand that part. But we would like to help where we can.
If I may, through the chair, no, I very much appreciate that clarification. I think staff has that understanding, but I think also, I think what I'd like to do is, one, I did want to say for the fire recovery, because we did receive that very clearly. We do have that report. We've shifted that to an annual report. We've had a couple of reports come forward, and that will be returning, we anticipate, in September. I think what I would like to do is sort of take a look and add that clarification to the Pajaro recovery efforts specifically, and then put a time frame for staff to be able to do very specific, the disaster recovery land use barriers discussion. So I'll go back and work with staff. We'll refine how that's crafted for clarity, and then we'll get a kind of a timeline going forward for us to return and provide that very specific post discussion. And I will put a little bit of thought if there's a way also that we might be able to streamline those responses and look just more broadly actually at disaster recovery barriers and opportunities. Appreciate that.
I really appreciate it also, and I just want to say that if you can frame it as how can we help? I mean, that's what I'm after. It's not like we should go and point fingers. That's not where I'm going. It's like, how could we help?
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Gomez?
I just had I don't know if it's a referral or just an inquiry. I was walking in Pajaro about a week ago on San Juan Road. The address is 23 San Juan Road. There's a Diaz garage, I think, in the front and the back. There's about 8 units of mobile home units on the same property, I believe, that are boarded up. I wondered if anything's been done with those boarded up homes. Are we seeing any plans for housing there, I guess, or just rehabbing those facilities? I think they were damaged, I'm assuming, around the same time of the flooding, but I'm not even sure if it's flood related. It just might just be abandoned facilities. I don't know. I think that area wasn't flooded at all, actually, if I recall correctly from the conversations we had with Ms. Shaw, who lives near that area. The second one relates to I wondered if there's any updates. Maybe you mentioned it. I just missed it on the property right on Porter, 8 Porter, the ongoing issue with the building that burned about 15 years ago.
So on Porter, that is a referral. That we have no more current status update, and and my goal is we'll update when there's a status change. But at this point in time, staff's not aware of any major updates or change from the prior. Regarding 23 San Juan Road, staff's happy to look into that. I don't want to speak off the cuff. If it's generally a one-time update, I think what staff would suggest, rather than making it a formal referral, if amenable at this point, is we can provide an update. I think I'd like to know, would the commission like that update to come, or should we follow up just directly with you, Commissioner Gomez? And then we can provide an update and then have conversation and go from there.
For me, it's fine if you just provide me with an update. It's up to the commission, but that would work for me.
Okay, so we'll just follow up directly with that post this meeting.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Mendoza?
On Porter Drive, it actually turned into a junkyard now. There's 3 cars in it, abandoned.
Any Commissioner Hartzell?
I wanted to check in about item number 1 on the tiny homes. Just wondering, did I miss the presentation in 2024, or is there one forthcoming, and any other details you can provide?
Thank you. You did not miss a presentation in 2024. I missed a date, and I was actually on my drive-in today trying to think of timing and who to pull in so that we could give some follow-up on that item. So what I will do is, between now and our next monthly update on the referrals, I'll touch bases with our team and see if we can't, I'll update that and see if we can't get some thoughts for a timeline to bring that item back. I would ask, I'm reviewing it. I just want to ask if the commission could review that right now and make sure that staff's description is accurate, just to be sure that when I'm talking with our team, we get the correct referral response underway. So I just recall there was some discussion around this. I was not here at the commission specifically when the last update came in April 2022. So just anything you'd like to flag for us to, that may or may not be captured in the description would be great at this moment, so we can be sure to incorporate that.
I received a follow-up inquiry from the Community Association from Big Sur on tiny homes that maybe have more updated questions than the ones that were submitted in 2018. And I don't know if that's a different referral or if that gets tacked onto this, or if that's just something that staff is doing, or what Commissioner Deal would suggest since this was her referral. But I am trying to get some answers for some people who are making comments on the Big Sur plan update. And so just wanting to make sure everyone has the right information.
Okay,
If I may, if that is consistent, the response to cabs, we do have that. We are working on response, and if it makes sense to also fold that into a response to this referral, then that's very appropriate. And thank you for flagging that. Staff's noting it, so we will fold that in.
Thank you.
If I could, just for the full commission who may not have received the CABS letter, this is an organization that's really looking at ways to provide affordable housing in Big Sur, and there are some proposals that tiny houses and houses on wheels might be a way to do that. They fall into sort of a gray area, so there's no way to even ask the question currently, no matter where you are. So we're working with them, and they've asked for us to look at clarity around whether that could be a solution, and it has like countywide implications. So it's like we're taking this specific question about where do they fit into the program with relationship to ADUs, with relationship to mobile homes. How can you look at the allowances for all of those things to basically maximize the number of available affordable units without overloading the infrastructure density? So if that pretty much what I think the referral says, but we got kind of down into this Big Sur land use plan tunnel, so I got to come back out for everybody else.
any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to have public comment at this point. And if there's anybody in the chambers that would like to come and address the commission on this particular item, seeing none, then is there anybody in Zoom or through any emails that would like to address this particular item?
There are no hands up on Zoom and no additional emails.
Okay, with that, we bring it back to the commission, and since it's a information item, then there's no action on this particular item. We move on to department reports.
All right, thank you. I have a few department reports. One, just putting out there to anyone listening and the public here on the dais, the Housing Community Development Department has now an assistant planner as well as a senior planner recruitment that are open and being advertised. So we do encourage you, if you know anyone who may be interested or maybe could be persuaded to be interested because it's a great team to join, then please feel free to forward. We're really looking forward to filling those vacancies on our team. Also, I wanted to give an update to the commission that our coastal accessory dwelling unit updated regulations have formally been submitted to Coastal Commission. So that package was submitted, and we don't currently have a timeline for their consideration of those. And I will note that unfortunately, State Housing Community Development staff was unable to do a thorough review. So we anticipate that we've addressed all of the state issues in our ordinances, and they hopefully will get through coastal without coming back. But I will just note that it is always possible through the Coastal Commission consideration, or should something have been missed, that State Housing Community Development also might flag along the process. There may be some minor adjustments to it, but we'll keep you posted. And then also just a note on that, also was submitted were amendments to our LCP local coastal plan related to fracking. Now that the fracking items from Measure Z ballot initiative per state law now go into effect. And so those amendments also accompanied that LCP amendment package that went forward to Coastal Commission. We have just at this last June board meeting, I did just want to flag that HCD did memorialize a number of prior adopted board policies related to fee waivers, related to fire rebuilds. And bear with me, I'm actually just wanting to pull this up so that I actually have it correct and accurate for you all. Related to fee waivers for land use permits, Also related to the appeal process and our code enforcement priority process, as well as fire recovery guidelines post-Soberanis. So I did want to flag that those have been now formally adopted and incorporated into the board policies, board policy manual. However, there were no changes to those adopted policies. Those had already been on the books, and it was more an administrative procedure. That being said, we are mindful that some of those processes can and will be discussed and amended and updated in the future. So just wanted to flag that for the public and the commission, that those did get formally incorporated into the board policy manual. But there were no changes to what was already adopted and on the books. Also, two projects that the commission had seen, I just wanted to give a brief update as they'd gone to the board on appeal. So one was PLN 210061, the Johnson project, which was the one in Carmel Highlands, right on the small bluff, that the Planning Commission had recommended approval, and there had been a subsequent appeal. And I did just want to alert that that appeal has subsequently been withdrawn, so the Planning Commission's approval stands. Also, we Signal Hill, which was the Metapore house. I apologize, I don't have the PLN in front of me. That had also was approved by the Planning Commission, went to the board on appeal. The board just heard that item and actually made a motion with a resolution of intent to deny the approval of that project, further reiterating their direction to stay within the footprint. So the board felt that the proposal that came forward and approved deviated more substantially than intended from that original board direction. So there may be some more action going on that. With that, just happy to answer any questions. Those are all the updates that staff have.
Any questions from commissioners? Seeing none, then this meeting is now adjourned at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much for the teamwork.
Thank you.